Aristotle was the first philosopher to offer a convincing, satisfactory answer to the question why morality matters. Why it matters to do the right thing, to be a good person. This is a very, very important question in life, I would say. People who are ethicists call these questions axiological questions because they are questions of value, the ultimate value. Why is morality important? Why is morality valuable? Why should I care to be a good person? They're variations of the same question. Why morality matters. And the answer Aristotle gave was something like this. He said, do you want to be happy? Right? Everybody wants to be happy. Well, the path to happiness is morality or virtue. Aristotle would prefer that word, virtue. So if you want to be happy, you must become a virtuous person. That's just the way it is. People are going to like you. You're going to have good relationships. You're going to have good dealings with people, your supervisors, everybody. I mean, things are going to go very, very well for you. You're going to be happy. But that's what it takes. You have to be a good, moral, virtuous person. So for your own interest, be a good person. So that was a pretty, I would say, pretty convincing and compelling answer to the question. Other philosophers throughout history, they have offered also very good answers to the same question. But one that really blew my mind, that and it's kind of similar to Aristotle's answer, but it's sort of like a different approach. It also considers happiness, but in an indirect way, let's say. Brilliant, brilliant description of why morality matters comes from this man on the screen, Abraham Maslow. American psychologist, very, very important, very influential psychologist. He once wrote, the state of being without a system of values, moral values, is psychopathological. Friends, that's a strong, very strong word. Like if you're not very clear about what psychopathologies are, you should do a Google search and or ask ChatGPT, right? That's what most people are using today. And ask ChatGPT for the most common forms of psychopathology. So you know what Maslow is talking about here. I mean, these are mental health conditions that range from, the usual or the common, unfortunately common depression, anxiety, to suicide ideation, sociopathy, schizophrenia, and and psychosis. I mean, it's a huge catalog of very serious mental health conditions. And Maslow is saying that if you live without a system of moral values, this is this is kind of like the path that you're taking, the path of psychopathology. So you don't want to take that path. Okay, to continue with the quote. Actually, I'm going to read the quote again from the beginning. The state of being, living, without a system of moral values is psychopathological. The human being needs a framework of values, a philosophy of life, a religion or religion surrogate to live by and understand by, in about the same sense that he needs sunlight, calcium, or love. What a brutally powerful statement, friends, from somebody who knew a thing or two about human psychology. Like the influence of Maslow has been, I mean, unbelievable, undescribable. And he was very well researched. This man studied hundreds, if not thousands, of people. And gosh, I mean, he did his work. So he knew what he was talking about. He knew what he was talking about. Living with no clear system of moral values, moral principles, can lead to very, very scary places. And you need that as much as you need vitamins, food, water. We all need these things to survive, right? Now we rarely, perhaps never, right, neglect those needs, right? We rarely forget to have lunch, right, or to eat. We do it. I mean, we do it regularly, at least 3 times a day, right? But how important though is morality to you? How important is it? Now you might think, well, morality is very important to me. I've heard many people saying this before. Yeah, of course. Yeah, morality is super important. I really care about being a good person. So when people give me these answers, I ask them because they're giving me the opportunity to ask. I said, okay, so you have a clear system of values, of moral principles? Yes. Okay. What are they? Tell me. What are the moral principles that you live by? And tell me how much those values are so important to you that your whole life is an expression of those values. Like, go ahead. I've asked these questions to people, and trust me, people struggle answering the question. And if they struggle, that's because it's pretty clear to me, at least, that maybe morality is, yeah, it's important, but it's not that important. Number one. Number two, or maybe this is an either or, they're not so clear about what morality is. They're not clear. If you and if this is you, right? I mean, ask yourself the same question. Are you able right now to articulate clearly, to give an account, a description of your morality, your morals, the principles that you follow, that you live by? Do you think you're able to say how much your life is an expression of those principles, values? How much your actions are informed by those values? Because if you're very clear, it should be no problem for you to say, I believe in A, B, C, and D. You can clearly say it, you can clearly state it, because it matters to you. But if you're not clear, if you're struggling, I don't lie. That's it. Unfortunately, what I have found in my experience is people who act morally when it's convenient. When it's convenient. So when it's convenient, I tell the truth. But if I'm going to get out of trouble or if I'm going to get a benefit, well, I might not be like completely honest or transparent about, my actions or my beliefs, right? How often, right? When we mess up at work, at school, and somebody asks, "Who did this?" Me, no, oh, I had nothing to do with it. You're not stupid, right? Of course, you're not gonna say I did it. Well, if that's you, well, you don't really have a solid framework of values. And this framework of values, friends, must be solid because if it's not, you're walking in that direction. You're taking the path of psychopathologies. This is absolutely true. I mean, the studies have been done about this, friends. Living with no morals is suffering. And in this point is where Aristotle and Maslow has something in common. Maybe the motivation or the end goal probably is not. It's different, but they're related. And this is what I mean. For Aristotle is happiness. You want to be happy, then you pursue a moral path. For Maslow, it's something like, do you want to suffer? You don't want to suffer, right? So, well, take the path of virtue, of morality. So, see what I mean? It's kind of related because obviously, when you're happy, you're not suffering, and when you're not suffering, you're probably happy. Okay, maybe not necessarily, but that was Maslow's emphasis. His emphasis was mental health. Mental health. If you're not a good person, if you're not committed to a system of values, you are going to pay for it. You are going to suffer psychologically. So you better, number one, you better know how important this thing is. And number two, you must be able to clearly articulate those values. And number three, you must live a life committed to those values, or else, or else. Many people who don't know, they're not really sure about why morality matters. They can very easily take that scary, dark path of psychopathologies that I associate with nihilism. In my classes, I often talk about nihilism, and in my previous videos. Nihilism, friends, it's not a philosophy of life. It's funny. The other day, I actually asked ChatGPT for nihilism, and ChatGPT told me something like it's a philosophy of life, like it's something intellectual. Nah, no, it's not. Nihilism, it's a mindset, and the mindset is one that r- denies value in life. Okay, so the nihilistic person might say something like, there's no value in life. There's no point in life. Life is absurd. There's no meaning in life. Nothing in life is worth pursuing. We are here today. We die tomorrow. The next day we're forgotten. So what is the point? What is the point of struggling in life and making plans for the future if in the end we're going to die? We don't know how long we're going to live here. So let's enjoy our lives, our time here while we can, because tomorrow, nobody knows. Nobody knows. So nihilistic people don't make plans for the future. They don't care about the future. They live for the present. And this is an extreme, let's say, an extreme, absolutely, and an extreme that again can take you to very, very dark places. Not only psychopathologies, but crime. Most violent criminals in prison, they are nihilistic in in their orientation. These people see no real value in life, which is why they end up in prison because they don't really care about the consequences of their action. Again, they don't care much about the future. They're trying to have a good time now. And because they don't see value in anything, well, they can use people. They can take stuff from people. They can kill people. Because in the end, nothing matters. Nothing matters. All that matters is I want to have fun now. There's something that I see that I like, I want it. I can't afford it, I don't care. I'm going to have it. I don't care about the consequences. If I'm pretty smart, so I won't get caught. That is the nihilistic mindset that can take you to psychopathologies, depression, suicide, criminal behavior, prison. That's the mindset. And sometimes, friends, people don't know they're walking the path of nihilism. Even if you don't know what nihilism is, like even if you've never heard of the word nihilism, it doesn't matter. If you ask people in prison, violent criminals, they probably very likely they will not know what nihilism is, but they're nihilistic. Again, it's a mindset, it's a condition, let's say. And many people don't know. They don't know their lives, their words, their actions. They're pretty nihilistic. One day, not too long ago in class, in my ethics class, I was discussing nihilism and the connection between nihilism and the famous phrase, life sucks. So I was telling my students, this expression, this statement, life sucks, is pure nihilism. Pure nihilism. And you might think it's There's nothing really wrong about saying that. It's a pretty harmless phrase, and sometimes people say that just to be funny. And don't you be so sure. Don't you be so sure. This is a serious statement to make, friends. Life sucks. Like, really? All you see in life is just negative. Life is a struggle. There's so much issues going on. There's so much pain. There's catastrophes. There's climate change, and there's corrupt politicians, and everything is just negative. And maybe that's all you see because you've been saying this phrase often. Life sucks. So it's very easy for you to see the negative in life. Watch out. Watch out. That is nihilism, friends. And in class, after talking about nihilism in this phrase, a student came up to me right after class. And I could tell that the class was very, very important for her. Like it touched a very important core. And she told me, Mr. Molina, I'm so grateful for this class, she said, because I actually say this a lot. And listening to you, in my mind, I was able to make connections between this phrase and things that I normally do that are nihilistic. And I say it, and I used to think it was funny. It's a funny thing to say, but now I see. Now I see the dangers, the implications, right? And she told me, I will never say that phrase ever again. And I was like, wow, yes. I said, thank you for saying that. Thank you for sharing. So, mission accomplished on my end. That's how I feel. That's why I'm making this video. You might not know, friend, you're walking in a nihilistic path. You're used to saying things like this. You're used to seeing the glass half empty, let's say, and instead of half full. So you have that negative view, negative perspective on things. That is not good. That is not good. Now, if you do care about morality and you do think, yeah, okay, yeah, I have some morals, and yet you're not able to articulate them. You're not able to say my moral principles A, B, C, and D. That means, friends, that you are not really committed. You are not committed to those principles, to morality in any important way. To be committed, that means what Maslow is saying right here. He says we need a framework of values, a philosophy of life, a religion or religion surrogate to live by and understand by. That means, friends, something that you use to guide your life and your actions, and something that you can use to make sense of the world, to understand the world around you and your relationship with people. So it has to be something that determines the quality of your life and your actions. Something really, really, really important, right? Not something that you're going to use simply when it's convenient. No, that is having no commitment. So, in this regard, I have to say, religious people have an advantage. They do. Because most people who are religious, committed religious people, committed to their faith, to their religion, let's say, they would go to church regularly, right? And that means that regularly they are exposed to the same ideas, to the same teachings, to the same exhortations. So they're constantly being reminded what it's important to do, what it's valuable to do, what it's wrong to do, and so on. So if you're going to church regularly and you don't, maybe, let's say you don't pay a whole lot of attention to the sermons, right? Well, at least you know the Ten Commandments are important. I'm pretty sure that will be on your radar, right? Don't lie. Don't deceive people. That's wrong. Don't use people. Don't take people's stuff. Okay, there's nobody around. Nobody's watching. That phone on the floor, that watch seems to have no owner. Uh, don't take it. Don't covet. Because if you do, There are going to be consequences. God is watching. God is watching. And depending on your religious ideas, right? I don't know. You might think, yeah, God is going to punish me. He's going to send some uh, test or trial to my life, or he's going to send me some sort of illness or something like that. Maybe that's not how you rationalize religion, but it doesn't matter. If you're listening to these injunctions, these commitments, these moral precepts, these moral stories often, then it's going to be on your radar, right? You're going to remember the golden rule. Don't do to other people what you don't want them to do to you. That's going to be here on your radar. And other things. Some people say, uh, what would Jesus do? Right? If you see somebody struggling, somebody in need, and you're a religious person who regularly hears these things at church, you're probably going to have that in the back of your mind. What would Jesus do? And you would act accordingly. You would help somebody and do the right moral thing. So you see what I'm saying? For religious people, it's easier for them to articulate their moral principles. It's easier for them to say, yes, I believe in A, B, C, and D, and I am committed to those moral principles, and I can give you plenty of examples of how my life is an expression of those moral principles. It's easy for them to say that. They have something. They have a framework of values, and they have a commitment when they go to church, when they read whatever sacred scripture. So it's a whole lifestyle, right? It's part of their lifestyle. But if you don't have that, if you're not a religious person, then you need something like that. You need a religion surrogate. You need a philosophy of life. But it has to be something very clear with very clear set of moral principles that you are committed to. So if you don't have that, you got to understand where you are. You got to understand your condition. You might be walking in the wrong path, the path of nihilism, or maybe in the path of psychopathologies, the path of depression, suicide. Okay, so now if you don't have any of that, if you're not religious, it's an idea that you just don't like at all, being religious. You don't believe in God. Okay, well, find a philosophy of life. I have posted several lessons on modern existentialism. To me, this is the best philosophy of life you can ever find. So I encourage you to start watching those lessons, lesson one, and see what you think. And because it lays out very clearly how to live our lives and what life is all about and why all these questions, all these ideas matter, why morality matters. And it'll give you very clear guidance, let's say. So, but maybe modern existentialism is not for you. Well, if you try and you don't quite like it, well, keep searching. Keep searching. You need something, friends, for your own good. So at this point, I don't know which side to take, either Aristotle's or Maslow's. So I feel like I lean more towards Maslow. It's so important to have morality, to have a framework of values. It's so important for your well-being, for your psychological well-being. So I hope this video is being interesting, to say the least, but most importantly, helpful. So thank you for watching. See you next time.